to decrease inflation, what would happen here? And this is Powell. I hope Powell is lying in bed thinking, oh man, this is a different ballgame. I hope he's not going, well, inflation's up, so I have to raise interest rates. This is a deep click, Mr. Powell. Please click one more time. This isn't that where you just kind of take it down. This is a different ballgame. So what would happen if you try conventional method decrease? And what's the conventional method? Thank you. Decrease money and increase short-term interest rates. Which would have been the normal soft landing. Yes, no? Right? But in cost push inflation, which is what we have now, and remember there are 4 things. Remember in the article today? There's lots of factors causing inflation. Cost push, demand pull, non-sustainable deficits, all those things are listed. So it's like a perfect storm, but the biggie right now is cost push inflation. We all know that. I mean, every day, I'm tired of sending you the articles, it's getting worse. Gas, according to somebody, is going to hit $7 a gallon. It's already over 5 now. $130 a barrel. Anything over 60 means Putin can play. That's his pocket money. Anything over 60 is pocket money for Putin. It's almost double. He's rolling in it. All right, so when you do this, it's not going to work here because look what happens here. Decrease in M. So decrease in M here. And what does that do to the economy? Here,
growth goes down.
Here, Y very low, super low. It's not just a slight, stage 2. This goes because you're already at Y low, right here, and now it's a double whammy. So maybe the market, the deep clicks in the market are going to, now he can't do this now. He's going to shoot us in the foot. He's going to make a bad situation worse. SIBA and ABA are going to tank. He's not going to do it. I honestly don't know. But maybe this is too deep a click for the market. The market's not a very deep click place, as we know.
For Powell, though, he measures inflation by the basket of goods, correct?
So how much is a second? And so did you get this? This is move 1, and this is move 2. So move 1, Y low. Move 2, Y very low. Boom, boom. You seeing this? So it's a no-win situation. You're going to make the patient, so there's nothing you can do macroeconomically. There is nothing you can do macroeconomically. What you do is you tell the American public, this is going to be painful. The rest of the world's eyes are on us. We can pay $5 a gallon, maybe for a short time. We're going to ramp up. We're going to open up that Canadian, what's that pipeline we shut down? What? Keystone. Throw in the towel. Open up that darn thing. Crank out the fracking. Turn on those nuclear power plants. And have Berlin Airlift Part 2. Try. But tell the American people that the eyes of the world are on us. We can do this. Let's show them what we are made out of. Because that needs to come first. Just like Churchill did with World War II. I can only promise you blood, sweat, and tears. And once you do that, people will rally. 75% of Americans are behind this. So, but he has to do this first.
I'm just
no. Oh, well, I was curious. Like, has there ever been a precedent for like a price ceiling on the price of gas? Say, because the president's telling the American people you have to suffer through this, but not telling the corporations to take less of a profit, right? All these gas companies are buying cheap Russian oil before the embargo hit, and they're making money hand over fist and having record years, and now they're inflating the cost of gasoline, and we have to eat it. So there's no government intervention in that case to put a ceiling in?
So what would you do? You would have a meeting with the CEOs, 4 or 5 of them in one room, and say, help me here.
Yeah.
That's
Is
what
is
you
there
do.
is there a precedent for that kind of thing? I mean,
No, this is
Yeah.
no. 1970s similar, by
The
the
gas
way,
crisis,
in the
yeah.
Yom Kippur War, and what happened is price of oil went up 3 times, and then we did the same thing. We said we don't want your oil, so price of oil now went up 4 times because this refusing Russian oil is going to cause more prices to go up. So the political statement cost us. But even in the Yom Kippur War, in the petrodollar story, while that was happening with the OPEC countries, the money they were getting, they were sending back to us. They were parking it in this country. That was the ultimate irony. I wouldn't be surprised if all the Russian money from this hike is coming here. I would not be surprised.
Well, then the problem.
Petrodollar 3 or petrodollar 4 is probably happening now along with hot capital. I have people from Hong Kong moving money here like crazy right now.
But just to go back to my question, so Powell measures inflation by a basket
Oh yeah,
of goods,
yeah,
correct?
yeah, thank you.
Then why wouldn't we just go ahead and flood the supply side of things?
Thank you. So, everybody got this? Okay, I want to show you, this is coming in chapter 10. The last thing we want to do is to hang the suits out to dry. You know, this is when he calls on their patriotism and says, help me out here. This is the chance you have to look good. Maybe down the road, I will look fondly on you with tax rebates.
Yeah, but I mean, you can argue, right? Like when COVID happened, the government did not really help the oil companies. They were losing money back then, and they took it in the chin. I mean, they did not ask for bailouts at that point of time.
Well, so here we are. Look at this. Going back to your question here. Here we go. So this is a demand pull story. T0, Y0. Let's put this in blue. So in blue, this is data we can see. In black, that's the theoretical model, which we cannot see. And this is the identification problem I'll do in chapter 10. But since it's happening now, and thank you for that question. What's the name again?
Oh, sorry, Dan,
Dan, of course.
not Nick.
Thank you. So what you see in blue is what you see. Inflation going up and output going up. This is a demand pull story. Traditional demand pull story. Then you have, that's the problem now. Then today. This is our big story today. This is what we see today. So, sorry, in blue. Then we have this. You see prices going up. So you see what I'm saying here? P1. So you see, so Powell sees P1 going up. Okay, so that's the thing. You see inflation going up, but what you don't see is why. That's a huge problem in macro called the identification problem. So this price, so this is a market basket which he's looking at. It went from 65 to 95. And he's got, 30 points up, okay. 30 points up, we hit the brakes. The thing is though, this is the story I told you in class. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and the front door is open to your house. And you look down and you go, okay, did my kid take the dog out because the dog wanted to go out? And so it's all cool because the door is wide open. Or is there an intruder in the house and it's bad? And I need to go get my gun, right? And so essentially it's the identification problem. All you see is that open door. And this is a huge problem in economics. You see the price, you're making pens. The price of these pens went up. Hey, demand's gone up for our pen. Or is it an increase in demand or a decrease in supply? It's another click. You've got to figure that one out. This seems like such a trivial and commonsensical thing, but this mistake is made all the time. Managers go, oh, well, prices went up, so our demand is good, boss. Well, are you sure? Or is it a combination of demand going up and supply chain problems? So here you are, if Powell is just sitting there looking at this as a benchmark, and I don't know how deep applicable he is. I do not know this man. He is a banker, he's not an academic, so there's no history. We don't know what he wrote. He's done fine in COVID, I thought, you know? So, but if you're just looking at this, if you're thinking that, oh, P1, P2, P0 to P1, okay, hit the brakes, thinking it's this story, well, then you got a problem. Because it's actually that story. And we will see later on in chapter 10, you will have Keynesians and supply-siders in the same country, both making different policies. And you'll go, how does this happen? That's identification problem. Keynesians go, let's increase G&M. Supply-siders go, no, no, no. It's cut taxes, deregulate, productivity. So that's the issue right now with Jay Powell. If he's looking at this, he needs to click one more time and figure out, is this the real story or that? Yes, no?
Thank you.
That was a great question, thank you. And I was just wondering, should I go into identification now? And then you asked me that, so perfect, I love it. Okay. We'll see. When does the Fed meet again? Does anyone know?
16th.
Next Tuesday or?
Next Tuesday.
Typically it's a
No,
Tuesday.
not I think 12
Huh?
or something.
Friday? St. Patrick's Day. So we do not have class next week. You all know that? And never forget, one year the evening students were complaining that they were not getting any emails. No, Farooq, we're not getting your emails. Sorry, not getting them. Then I sent one that next week there is no class. Everyone got that one. No problem, it sailed right through. That one, everyone got. All right, let's power up. Let me show you some. Let's set the stage for chapter 8. Then we'll do a cycle of 1, and then we'll go home. Then I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll discuss the exam. All right, so far, stay with me now. We have this horizontal aggregate supply, and this was an artificial aggregate supply. It was for practice. It was easy. And don't worry about the ISLM in the exam. As long as you're in the ballpark, you're in good hands. Stop worrying. So, here you go. It was kind of weird. Not really. There's no inflation here because we artificially suppressed it. And so let's now start with the first real aggregate supply curve. It was the classical model. Then we have the Keynesian. And then we have the supply side, etc. And the classical model was up to 1931, roughly. So this is where, let's start with the first real aggregate supply. Jessica, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did, it was just I did not print
Okay, sorry, I just remember that now. And so the first real aggregate supply curve, 1931, and stay with me now, and I'll make this comment many times. This guy here, we will spend quite a bit of time on this. is very similar to the supply side's aggregate supply curve. Very similar. They're cousins. So this is why I'll be spending quite a bit of time on the classical model, not because it's a historical story, but because these are first cousins to the supply siders, who basically have vanished right now. They vanished with COVID, and now with this Russian thing, they've again vanished. So, please note they're related to these guys, hence we'll be spending some time on them. So let's start with the first real aggregate supply curve. Stay with me now. And let's look at, so deriving this is now Adam Smith, Hume, Ricardo. This is before the Great Depression. So here we are. Let's look at the labor market. Let's look at YS. This is supply of output. Is some function of capital and labor. Here we go. Where K is capital. Let's use the German spelling here. And N is number of people working. That's labor. So for the first time we are seeing workers in our story. So output supply is some function of capital stock and employment. Number of people working. And let K be constant now. So capital stock is constant right now. So output supply is some function of employment. Just function of labor for now. So we're building the classical curve and repeating myself. It's very similar to the supply side curve. So here is what it looks like. You've seen this in your microeconomics courses. N, which is employment, and Y, which is output, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So what is, after you finish copying, what does this look like? Sorry, Nick. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Megan. Yeah.
Goods market.
Sorry?
The goods market.
Goods market? Yeah.
Does it? Are you asking what the actual curve looks like?
So let's go. So when we increase workers from 0 to 1, what happens to output?
Increases.
Increases. Then we have 1 to 2, increases. Capital is fixed, okay? There are only 25 computers in this world. Capital is fixed. Come on, Mark.
So it increases until you hit Y max and then it flatlines, right?
So it goes straight.
And as there's like a diminishing return, so
Wow,
as
here we
employment.
go. Here we go. So
Yeah, I
basically this baby looks like this. And flattens out. And this is Y max. This is called the law of diminishing marginal returns. If you've done this in your micro, yes, no, law of diminishing marginal returns. So let's play in English. What's happening here? 1 worker, 2 workers, 3 workers, then this increase gets smaller and smaller. What is it? In English, what's happening here? What's that? Yes, so productivity has gone down. So look at this. The first worker you hire, you need some time. The first worker you hire, you make that much. The second worker, well, the increase is good, not as much. When you hire the third worker, the increase is a little less. You hire the fourth worker, if you remember, there's only 25 computers. And so the increase keeps getting less and less productivity. And finally, all the computers are being used. Since the capital stock is fixed, And so finally, all the computers that are used since the last worker hardly contributes. He or she goes out for coffee, you know, that sort of thing. So diminishing margin return, just like the razor blades. When we invented the first safety razor, wow. Then we got the Gillette Good News, remember those plastic things? Whole sack, right? You know, disposables, wow, better. Then you got 3 blades, whoa, good. The final effect, better, but you know, not that much better. 4 blades, hey, Chic Quattro, better shape, but not that. 5 blades, Fusion, all right, the increase is that much. And the South Koreans have 6 blades. Yeah. Finally, you know, 9 blades will happen someday. So there you go. The increase keeps getting less and less and less and less. So Zaki, you remember those Good News, don't you? Yeah, does anybody know those Gillette Good News? Bright blue, big sack. No? Before your time?
It's like the one where you got like 30 in a plastic.
30 in a big sack?
Yeah.
Before your time?
It's like Big still made like the single razor one too.
It's got 2, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I was in engineering school, those were disposables, right? But you know, we used them for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? Better than what we had at home at that time. Gillette, Good News. And so I was walking back from my lab with this guy who said, what would you do if you had $1 million? I don't know. Who thinks like that? I don't know, man. He said, well, you know what I would do? I said, I don't really care. What would you do? And he said, here's what I would do. He said, I would take those Gillette Good News razors, I would shave once, and I would throw it away. I'll never forget. I went, wow, man. And he said, yeah. So, and to this day, every time I see them, I think of him. So when I traveled, I would shave in the lounge, in Narita Airport or wherever, So I would carry one of those with me, the disposable ones. I think of him every time. And no, I still don't throw them away. Asians. Asians, we are stuck. We can't do stuff like this. Anyway, all the memories. So here we are, production function looks like this. This is a normal production function. Just store this away, and what's driving this shape is the law of diminishing marginal returns. Okay, let's look at the labor market. So what's the mask mandate? Are we obviously still masked? Does Rutgers announce anything?
No.
The labor market. Here we go. Labor demand for the very first time. Labor supply. N0 employment. And so what about this here? This is, what kind of wage would I put on this axis? If I were to say, Amir, come work for me, do some research on my team. Amir, I'll pay you 50 gourds an hour. A gourd is a unit of currency for Haiti. And we've been through this before. Amir, you're gonna like this. 50 gourds an hour, man. Hang out with Langdana and we'll analyze stuff. What's the first question he will ask me?
What's the exchange rate?
Yeah, what is it worth? I mean, what exactly is that? Will that even get me a cup of coffee? What is 50 gourds? So we can't just use wages anymore. In macro, we use real wages. Just like the real money supply, real wages, which is the real purchasing power of your paycheck. What did you do with that cycle of one question? Did you get that? Did you get the Ludwig Erhard question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's the real purchasing power. What does 50 gourds an hour or 10 gourds an hour mean, Langdana? So here we are, real wage is small w, that's equal to capital W over P. Here we are, folks, it's getting real now. This is the nominal wage. This is your paycheck. This is in dollars. Let's say 100. So this is your paycheck. That's called the nominal wage. And this is price per consumption bundle. What Dan was talking about earlier. Consumption bundle. If Powell were to say this, you know what, we thought about it, this is not the right time. Can you imagine the euphoria, the CBER explosion that would happen? You know, it would be really good. But that would mean that he's deep clickable, that you can deep click on him. And I don't know if you can. Some people are one click people, some people you can click 20 times. Deep clickable. But it's tough to tell. Needless to say, in this room we are all deep clickable. Alright, so here we are. This is 25 per good. So this is what happens. So the real wage is in units of what? Therefore, what's the real wage, Amir? So you're getting $100
4 goods.
and it's $25 per good. So real wage is in units of what?
4 goods.
It's 4 goods, thank you. It's in units of goods, so it's the real purchasing power of your salary. So that's what, because we know dollars, we know yen, yuan, but we don't know other currencies. So in macro, when you do macro research, you convert everything to real wages. By the way, if you guys are going to be relocated from New Jersey to, let's say, the Bay Area, San Francisco, and the company says, you know, Mark, I'm going to send you Bay Area, you're going to do a 10% increase in salary. What do?
No.
Yeah. Say
What?
no.
Ask for more.
Ask for more?
Yeah.
And then, so I'm HR, and you know how HR is. HR thinks they own the planet. And HR is confused. HR thinks that there is God and then HR. Seriously, what happened here when they got up into this elevated status? Everyone is afraid of HR. Anyway, so yeah, go ahead. How would you respond to HR? I'm HR. Why?
Well, relative to here, the cost of living is significantly higher.
So what you do is you look at the cost of living index. Cost of living index for Bedminster, New Jersey, where your office is. Cost of living index for Bay Area. Cost of living index there is 145 and it's 100 here. 45% more. They've given you 10% more. So you go armed with your information and say, just not being aggressive or greedy, you know, I mean, just want to be where I am. There's nothing wrong, and I'm in my right, you know, to be where I am. So it's, I need 45, I need what was it, 35, 45? I want my real wage to be the same. You take your numbers, you show it, then they have to comply, or then they're in violation. As simple as that. Now if it's in the other way around, they're giving you 45 and it's only 20, you obviously do nothing. I don't think I needed to tell you that, right? Do you have a negotiations course in this program?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
teaches that?
Sheldon and Kurtzberg.
Oh, Sheldon is good, right? And who?
Kurtzberg?
CRISPR?
Kurtzberg?
Oh, Terry Kurtzberg, she's amazing.
I have Sheldon.
Sheldon?
I have Sheldon.
Yeah, so how was it?
It's good.
Okay.
Just a comment, Professor. Shouldn't you also consider the taxes?
Wow, beautiful, Jose. Yeah. So we will say this is going to be, the nominal wage is going to be essentially factored in after taxes. Quality of, this is a very simple world here. So So quality of life, transportation, all that's factored in here. So there'll be, your real wage will be this, plus the travel bonus or work from home, childcare, all that stuff. Right now, we're just looking at simple things. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's put this together. Reaching a huge milestone now, and then we will stop and then do a cycle of one, and then we go home. So, fundamental classical assumption. Here we are. This is before the Great Depression, and again, repeating myself, this is going to be very similar to the supply side people. Okay, very similar. So, fundamental classical assumption. Percentage change in P is equal to percentage change in capital W, the nominal wage. This is a huge assumption in your paycheck. And so this is a huge, huge assumption. This is the driving assumption. This is the motherboard assumption. That if inflation is 2% in the classical world, your paychecks are going up 2%. If inflation is 9%, your paycheck, because this is what they saw before the Great Depression. Remember, in macro, you build in what you see out there, unlike engineering. So this is the fundamental assumption. Percentage change in P is equal to percentage change in W. We will see if inflation is supposed to fall by 30%, 30, what should happen to wages here?
They should fall.
They should fall by 30%. And we are going to get into, when we come back in 2 weeks, I'll show you the Great Depression. We'll talk about Hoover. We'll look at the 4 mistakes he made. So it's going to get really interesting. So let me just set the stage. And I'm going to stop. I sense you guys are fading here. I'm making huge deep click comments and there's no resonance. Like if I suddenly switched into Aramaic, nobody would notice. Medieval Aramaic, not even modern Aramaic. Solomon?
Talmud.
Here we are. I'm going to set the stage. Here is our production. Here is a production function. Here we are. Here is the labor market. Labor demand, labor supply. It's all lining up now. Deriving the classical aggregate supply. Here we are. This is N0, this is employment, this is all lining up. This is W0 over P0, this is the real wage. Here's the production function, N0, it's a production function. This is the labor market. Lots of new things here today. We're setting the stage. Here is a neat diagram I invented called the YY reflector. So this is the YY reflector. And here in this space, PY space, we will derive the classical aggregate supply in here, in this space. It's an amazing story. And here is a firewall. What can you guess what this firewall does? This here is a firewall. What does that mean? Yeah, help me here. Dave. Twinkle, help me here. Ben, help me here. Nick. Jason, Chris, Dana. What's a firewall mean? It means that you cannot go from this axis and this axis, they're different. You cannot go across. It's a firewall, okay? So these are different axes. You cannot just transpose from here to there. So this is a wall here, and you can't go across. That's all it means. I'll never forget, when I was in Hillsborough, I was in the Manville Walmart, 10:30 at night. I was going to get a card when somebody walked out in the darkness and said, Langdana. My wife was with me. And he goes and I said, hey, I said, macro, 2 years ago. And I said, wow, hey. And then he looks at me and goes, hey, you still use that firewall? And I went, yeah. Oh man. And he walks away. Seriously. And my wife goes, what was that? And I said, after the whole course, 4 months, the first thing you think about is the firewall. Maybe he works in IT, and I said, I don't know. It's apparently important to him. That's going to be a multiple choice question in the final round. All right, so we're going to set this up, and I'm going to ask you a cycle of 1, and then you get to go home. Because you guys are failing now, I don't want to lose you.
So Professor,
Can you do a cycle of 1? Yeah.
so the y-axis is n0 and then
Oh
again.
my God, thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, y is 0. Thank you very much. Ditto. And so it's all lined up. When we meet in 2 weeks, and here we'll derive the classical aggregate supply. And this curve will be the first cousin to the supply side of this. But it's a little high-powered now. There's some heavy lifting now, and if I lose you now, I'll lose you in 2 weeks. I can't afford it. All right, so let's do it. This is a good one. Let's see if did you get the last one? I think, Sarah, you came very close to the last one, right?
I said get rid of the price.
Yeah, you think you said it. You just didn't tell me how to do it.
I didn't say announce it without actually removing it officially.
So you pretty much got it.
Yes.
Okay, here you go. All right, here we are. This is a true story. Let's see what you got. My early years as director of the executive MBA program, I had to interview all the applicants. I just got the job. 2 guys come in. They've been friends all their lives. One is like an older brother. One is like the younger brother. They're not brothers, but they are friends. They've been vacationing together. So, mentor. You need roughly 10 years of experience to be in the program. The older guy had like 11. The younger guy had 4, 5, whatever. So they both come in, they both interview with me, and so we go through the whole thing. And so I was supposed to say yes to the older guy and tell the younger guy, come back in 2-3 years because we need 10 years experience. Something happened. We sent them the same letter. So we accepted both. Fine. Then my team finds out, we accepted him. And so I said, what do I do now? So it goes to my dean. My dean goes, what did you have to let him know that it was a mistake, that you got the wrong letter. Because of the accreditation people, who are the biggest bullies in the world, by the way, the most useless people, they come in and terrify universities. They have nothing better to do. They get off on this, by the way. The accreditation people will come in and they'll pull his file and Rutgers will lose its accreditation. Are you kidding me? You gotta call him up and tell him. I said, all right. So I go to my office, there's an email from him, the younger guy. Rogue, this was the happiest day of my life. My wife and we had planned on going to a lesser program somewhere, and I just came just in the nick of time. He was so happy. Farouk, I took my wife to her favorite Italian restaurant in the city, in the garment district. She grew up in the garment district. So I'm seeing this quaint little Italian place, this big, Thank you so much. I hope I could live up to the faith you have in me. So I went back to my dean. She said, you gotta let him know. They will come and pull the file. I said, what will you do? What will you do? I have a sip of water. I'm going to wander around with my annoying book. Jessica?
I think I dig through his resume experience and try to come up with anything else that would possibly apply to his experience that you think doesn't work.
So she
Did
says,
he
let
have an
me.
internship that you didn't count, or did he have something, or see if he can come up with some reason where he could.
So she's saying, I find a redeeming feature in his application. The thing is, you know, you got to have a number of years. Back then they were kind of uptight about that.
So, I'm sorry, why is there only one spot?
Oh, there are many spots,
There are many spots.
but he was not qualified. He didn't have enough experience. You see what I'm saying? You should have had thank you, but come back in 5 years. So do you have an answer?
I think I'm on board with what Jessica said. I would find,
Gotta let him know.
I've already got my boss who gave me the job saying, they are going to pull, oh good God.
but you made a mistake. I feel like you gotta eat it now.
I've got to eat it now.
Yeah.
So what do I do with this guy? What do I do with my boss? And those guys in suits who are going to terrorize the whole campus.
Put a recommendation
And-
as to why he fits into the program.
He's 24. He's supposed to have 10 years experience.
He's gifted.
Gifted. But I like the way you're thinking. Yeah, Pooja.
Could you talk about the part-time and the full-time program instead?
Yeah, but I have to tell him that.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
I'm telling him, you've got to undo that nice Italian.
It doesn't happen on the regular basis, so
So I accept him, and then my boss.
the boss we can handle.
I like the way you guys are thinking, but tell me what to do. Come on from here. Yeah.
Take him and his wife out to dinner to apologize.
Take him and his wife out to dinner. Can you imagine how sad that would be? Can you pass me the lasagna, please? Work with me here. Come on. Come on, guys. What would you do? What?
Like forge his file.
Forge his file?
Tell him he didn't get the job, or tell him he didn't get approved.
Then we're going to back around to. But
Tell him there was a mistake.
tell him it's a mistake. But his wife's name was Amy.
Oh, well.
What do you think Amy is going to do?
Bummer.
Sweet thing. I know her.
What do you
Come on.
want?
Maybe tell them he has guaranteed admission in 6 years or whatever number of years,
6 years. Yeah.
whatever number he needs to get.
You know, you remember for a 24-year-old person, 6 years is 1/4 his lifespan, 25%. And what about Amy? What do I do with Amy? Seriously, that's the first thing I said. But and so I went to my boss and the dean. I said, "What about Amy?" And she said, "Who is Amy?" And I said,
Maybe recommend him to some other,
"Recommend him to someone. No, come on, guys."
Take the people from the accreditation for dinner and.
Take that, oh my God, you realize, he says take the accreditation people to dinner. They are the most officious, condescending, don't get me worked up. I need to make them, they are the most pretentious people in the world. They have nothing going on for them, but they're bullies. And they get paid for terrorizing other schools. I would not even have a glass of water with them. Don't get me worked up, Jose.
How about you propose a change to the accreditation rules? So not accreditation rules, but to the rules of the program.
You realize Rutgers University, do you realize how long I've been trying to change the name of this course? I'm serious. I actually thought aggregate economic analysis, that sounds like I'd rather clean out my fridge. I said, can we please make it macroeconomic policy, strategic macroeconomic policy analysis? Oh my gosh. Finally, I gave up. So I call it that. All right, this is what I did since you need to go home. So I sat down and I said, I can't do this. So I took his folder and I put it in my office. So when the ASCPS, whatever people show up, it's not there. If they look for me, I'm on the New Brunswick campus. You know? And I just did nothing. I just did nothing. So he's in the program, and then some years go by, and he graduates. He was fine. He was fine. He graduates. He worked for Otis Elevator, by the way, and he told me that Otis Elevator is the only elevator company that if there's an evil laser that cuts all the cords, it will not come crashing. There are centrifugal things that fly out and grab the sides, so you come down slowly. You get hurt, but you don't die. So every time in an Otis elevator, I go, Dom, I hope you're right with that. Centrifugal thing. Anyway, so he graduates, then after 4 or 5 years, he shows up in my office with 2 women, all in suits. And he says, I said, Tom, what are you doing here? He said, Farooq, we hire 15 to 20 MBAs from the full-time program. We used to go to NYU and Columbia first, and maybe here afterwards. Now we come here first. I said, wow, thanks, man. He said, I know what happened with my admission. And so I thought vindication. So that was the vindication. So what's the takeaway here from the cycle of one? What's the takeaway?
Give people a chance.
So basically, sometimes you take the rule book, you hold it with 2 hands, and if it's not doing anything bad to anyone, what do you do with it? You throw it away. Thank you guys. See you in 2 weeks.